Hello, welcome back, marketer. In the digital age, seeing is no longer just believing, it's decoding. How do you know if an image is truly Chanel or just a genetic black and white photo? Visual analysis is the key. It allows us to identify the brand halo and determine if a visual truly fits the brand's identity. This is the foundation of brand consistency. Before we can create, we must understand to replicate a specific style in future words. We first need to master the art of critique. In this video, I will show you how to use AI tools like Google Gemini and ChatGPT to deeply analyze the form and content of social media posts or print ads. By decoding their style, we ensure every piece of content we can create stays perfectly on brand. So now, take a look at this image through your eyes. What catches your eye first? At a glance, we see a woman in a sharp suit sitting in a chair. We see the high contrast, the bright sunlight hitting her face, and the deep shadows behind her. It feels elegant, maybe a bit serious. But actually, they're just the surface. Now, we may try to use different way to analyze the photo. So next step, we will try to use AI to analyze this using a structured aesthetic framework. Let's start with Google Gemini. Okay, so first, let's upload the photo, the same photo. And I don't just want a description, I want a technical breakdown. I'm asking for an analysis of form, content, composition, and style. And watch how it decodes the image. It's not just seeing a woman, it's identifying the chiaroscuro lighting, the monochromatic palette, and the power dressing symbolism. So let me copy paste the prompt here. And we can see the prompt. I include a role. You are an expert visual art critic and brand strategy consultant. And the task I want the AI tool to do is analyze the uploaded image using a format aesthetic framework. Please break down your analysis into the following 4 sections. I include the form and lighting, the physics, content and elements, the objects, composition, the structure, style and mood, the vibe. And I also give them some example or definition. Okay, so let me click the end. Okay, the results are in. Now I want you to pay close attention. Most of people just look at an image and say it's cool. But as brand strategists, we need to bridge the semantic gap, the difference between what we see and how a machine interprets it. Google Gemini has given us a technical breakdown. Let's dissect this session by session to uncover the hidden formula of this brand style. Okay, so let me show the photo. And also see the analysis here. So the first part of physics. Google Gemini identified the lighting technique as chiaroscuro. This is crucial because it's not just contrast. It's a specific or historical term referencing the dramatic interplay of light and dark used by a master like Rembrandt. Look at the AI describe the light score. Hard, directional, and ranking light. Why does ranking light matter? Because it hits the subject from the side to reverse surface topology. This is what creates haptic visuality. Visuals so details you can almost feel the texture of the fabric through the screen. For luxury brand, this texture is the product. You can see the texture, right? Okay, moving on to content and elements. The objects. No big brand names. The AI calls this utilitarian chic or stiff wealth. The signifier is the coarse fabric and the sharp tailoring. The signified is heritage, old money, and discipline. The styling is minimal, no jewelry, just a modern bob cut. This tells us the brand values substance over flash. It's confident. It doesn't need to shout. Now let's look at the structure. How is the eye guided? Google Gemini point out the leading lines created by the shadow, right? On the wall and on the sofa. These aren't random. They are geometric vectors directing your gaze straight to her face. The composition is asymmetrical. She's positioned on the right, leaving heavy negative space on the left. In visual psychology, looking into the negative space created a narrative gap. She's looking away in the light We follow her gaze, wondering, what is she thinking? This engages the viewer's cognitive mastering. We want to solve the mystery of her thoughts. Finally, let's define the vibe. Google Gemini nails it with modern noir and a cinematic editorial. But look closely at the emotional keywords. Here, pensive stock and aloof. Why do luxury brands use an aloof expression? It refuses to ask for your approval. It creates social distance. In our analysis framework, this is an offer image, not a demand image. She is an object of admiration, independent, and empowered. This specific mood is the brand hero we are looking for. So, when we write our prompt later, we won't just say woman in a suit. We will say a cinematic black and white shot using chiaroscuro lighting to highlight the tactile texture of a tweed suite, invoking a stoic, quite luxury atmosphere. So this is the power of visual analysis. Do you see the difference? Having analyzed the image with Google Gemini, we have a solid foundation. However, in professional brand strategy, we never relied on a single source of truth. Therefore, we are going to switch gears and bring in our second expert analyst, ChatGPT. Running on ChatGPT 5.2. Just like before, I'm uploading the same image, but this time my goal is slightly different. I want to see if ChatGPT agrees with Gemini's assignment or quite luxury, and furthermore, I want to see if it can pick up on any emotional nuance that we might have missed. To achieve this, I'm pasting a similar form and content prompt. Notice that I'm specifically asking it to act as a visual critic. By doing so, we force the AI to look beyond the surface and dig into the semiotics. Now let's look at the prompts. Looks like this. We also have the 4 dimensions, light and shadow, texture and materiality, the gaze and pose overall archetype. And one more thing I want to do is choose the thinking model directly to lay the ChatGPT to explore and think deeply. So let me click the send. Okay, we've just seen how Google Gemini analyzed this image with the precision of a structural architect. It gave us the physics, the ranking line, and a symmetrical balance and the modern NORA genre. However, simply knowing the physics isn't enough. Build a brain soul to truly decode the emotional resonance. We need a second opinion. Therefore, we are bringing in ChatGPT to act as our brain psychologist. In this session, we will perform a cross verification. We will overlay ChatGPT's psychological insight onto Gemini's structural analysis. By doing so, we will uncover the complete visual DNA of this image. So let's starting with light and shadow. Let me open the picture and put together. Recall that Google Gemini identified the technique as chiaroscuro and ranking light. That is the technique. Now look at how ChatGPT interprets this impact. ChatGPT used a fascinating phrase, cinematic enclosure. It says the shadows don't just exist. They added the space. They carve out a zone of privacy around the subject. Furthermore, ChatGPT described the emotional tone as gravitas and introspection. Here's the key takeaway. Google Gemini tells you to put the light on the side, the how, but ChatGPT tells you why, to create a psychological barrier that makes the subject feel untouchable. This transforms a simple lighting setup into a narrative device. So next, moving on to texture and material, the touch part. Google Gemini did a great job identifying the tweet suit and the service topology. It recognized the what. Conversely, ChatGPT digs into the value system of the texture. ChatGPT identifies this as service truth. Service truth. It argues that the monochrome treatment amplifies the material integrity. It uses words like hand, craft, and weight. Why is this important? This connects directly to the concept of haptic visuality, where the eye touch the image. ChatGPT concludes that this texture communicates quiet luxury because it relies on craftsmanship over logos. In other words, the texture is the brand. The texture is the brand. This is a crucial insight for your prompts. Don't just ask for a suit. Ask for tactile, wool width that conveys material integrity. Now, let's analyze the most powerful semiotic element, the gaze. Google Gemini described the subject as aloof and stoic. Accurate but descriptive. ChatGPT, on the other hand, gives us the strategic definition based on visual semiotics. ChatGPT classified this as an over image. This is a term from Kreis and Van Leeuwen's theory. Unlike a demand image, where the subject looks at you and demands engagement, an over image looks away. ChatGPT explained the strategy perfectly. She is withholding attention. This implies that the brand does not chase the customer. The customer must aspire to the brand. Consequently, this creates status and exclusivity. It turns the product into an object of desire rather than a commodity. Finally, we look at the brand archetype. Google Gemini called it modern Nora. This is a genre. ChatGPT called it a ruler, right? This is a soul. So ultimately, this tells us that if we want to replicate this brand, we cannot just use dark filters. We must capture that specific sense of control and self-preservation. So you see, AI analysis is not just about describing what is there. It is about uncovering the hidden layers of meaning. Armed with this neural analysis, we are now ready to write the ultimate prompt to recreate this style. Okay, as we look at this image one last time, let's reflect on the journey we've just taken. In the past, visual analysis was a purely human endeavor. We relied on traditional art education frameworks, specifically form and content, and the principle of art. We used our biological eyes to identify the subject and our cultural background to interpret the mood. However, this human-centric approach had limitations. It was subjective. What I see as elegant, you might see as cold. More importantly, while we could appreciate the style, we lacked the precise language to instruct a machine to reproduce it. As we discussed, traditional analysis creates the eye for appreciation, but it lacks the engine for execution. Then can the revolution, multimodal large language models like Google Gemini and GPT. But why can these tools analyze this image with such startling accuracy? It's not magic, it's advanced computer science. Now, let's look under the hood. How does a machine see? Unlike the human eye, which captures the whole scene continuously, an AI model starts by performing image segmentation. Imagine an invisible grid overlaying this photo. The AI slices this image into hundreds of tiny fixed-size squares, which we can call it patches. To the AI, this isn't a woman in a chair anymore. It's a sequence of puzzle pieces. Next comes the translation process. This is handled by a technology called the Vision Transformer or VIT. The AI looks at the raw pixels in each patch, the red, green, and blue values, and runs them through complex mathematical functions. It converts each patch into a vector. Think of a vector as a long list of coordinates in a multi-dimensional space. The AI doesn't see dark shadow. It sees a specific numerical sequence. This process turns visual arts into mathematical data. But numbers aren't meanings. How does it know these numbers represent quiet luxury? This is where multimodal training comes in. During its training, the AI analyzed billions of image test pairs. It learned to map visual vectors to text vectors. It learned that whenever the mathematical pattern for high contrast geometry appears, it is statistically aligned with the test token for chiaroscuro or NORA. It's essentially a massive game of probabilistic association. It calculates the probability. Given these pixel vectors, what is the most likely description? Finally, the AI performs contextual synthesis. It doesn't just look at one patch in isolation. It understands that the patch containing the eye looking away plus the patch with the dark background equals the concept of mystery and privacy. This is how it bridges the semantic gap, the massive disconnect between raw visual data and the human conceptual language. So where does this leave us? We are entering an era of meta-visual literacy. It is no longer enough to just recognize a style. We must understand how the algorithm sees it. By using AI to analyze image, we gain a superpower, precision. We move from vague adjectives like cool, vibe, to precise parametric controls like high key lighting or asymmetrical balance. We transform from passive viewers into active prompt engineers who can reverse engineer any style we see. So this image on the screen is no longer a mystery. It's a dataset. It's a prompt. It's a strategy. The future of brand strategy isn't about human versus AI. It's about the human eye guiding the AI engine. It's about using Gemini to understand the physics and ChatGPT to understand the soul, ensuring that every piece of content we generate maintain perfect brand consistency. Thank you for joining this masterclass on visual analysis. Now you have the tool to decode the word. Go create.